On this video, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why the 2018 Suzuki Escudo 1.4 booster jet is the perfect alternative to the 2018 Subaru XV 2.0 eyesight. And we are going to do this because AutoConnect is the only car channel that will guarantee you an alluring motor vehicle experience. And I'll be your host, Eric Wakabi, Eric with a CK. Remember, you can follow me at a personal level on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads as well. And for daily updates on the Kenyan car market, join our WhatsApp channel. The link is in the description below. Let's get up close and candid with why the Escudo will be the perfect alternative to the Subaru XV. First reason is the price. If you source these two cars from us, you're going to get the same pricing point, which is 2.65 million Kenya shillings. And that makes the Escudo a very good or low-lying fruit when it comes to alternatives to this 2018 Subaru XV. The second reason is all about performance, and with that we are going to check out what is under the hood of the 2018 Escudo booster jet and what is under the hood of the 2018 Subaru XV 2.0 eyesight. Under the hood of the 2018 Suzuki Escudo is a 1400cc turbocharged 4-cylinder direct injection K14C engine. And one unique thing to note about the K14C engine is that it is the same engine that is on the 3rd generation Suzuki Swift Sport. And I would prefer this over what is under the hood of the Subaru XV for several reasons, and one of them is fuel economy. The K14C can record an average of 16 kilometers to the liter. The other thing is performance. This engine churns out around 144 horsepower, which is 10 horsepower less than what is under the hood of the Subaru XV, but it compensates that when it comes to torque, because the torque output of the K14C is around 230 Newton meters of torque, and that is way more than what the XV can generate. When it comes to matters performance, the other thing is gearing. Mated to the K14C is a 6-speed torque converter automatic transmission, and the automatic transmission brings up or brings out the performance aspect of the Escudo, because when we compare that to what drives the XV, well, the XV might be quite disadvantaged. So we have talked about fuel economy, and we have talked about the power and torque output, and third, we have also talked about the gearing. And I think now it's time to move over to what is under the hood of the 2018 Subaru XV. The Subaru XV is an amazing car, so don't get me wrong on some of the things that I'm going to say. It's just describing the car as it is. Well, the XV has a bigger engine, and the engine that drives the XV is the FB20. The FB20 is a 2-liter flat-4 engine that is naturally aspirated. The power output of this engine is around 154 horsepower, but when it comes to torque, well, the horsepower is 10 horsepower more than what you'd get from the K14C in the Escudo. However, when it comes to torque, the torque from the XV is around 196, and that is way lower compared to what the Escudo can churn out, which is around 230 Newton meters of torque. Now, the other feature about the XV that might make it feel lazy when you're driving it, or why the torque rating of the XV is a bit lower compared to what you have from the Escudo, is the gearing, because mated to the FB20 is a Subaru Lineatronic CVT transmission. And one annoying thing about the Lineatronic CVT transmission, especially when you're driving the XV for long distances, is that when you try to put the pedal to the metal, to get some power out of it, it ends up sounding like you're stamping on a piglet because of how the Lineatronic CVT whines. So CVTs are not designed for, you know, for so much torque or for high torque output. That is for the automatic transmissions. And I feel that is one of the reasons why the XV does feel lazy and is not as exciting to drive as the Escudo. But I say, don't get me wrong, the XV is an amazing car. It has a very good build quality. I would like us to talk about something else that is related to gearing as well, and that is the four-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive system. On the Escudo, we have an all-grip four-wheel drive system, and on the Subaru XV, we have a symmetrical all-wheel drive system. So it might have a good all-wheel drive system. It might have a good engine, the FB20, with a lower center of gravity, but it does not compensate for the laziness that comes to driving this car. So what means the Escudo will give you better fuel economy and better performance as compared to this bigger engine. However, in terms of reliability, these cars are almost at par, only that you're going to be spending more on fuel when it comes to the XV. Now let's talk about the interior space and how these cars feel when it comes to the interior and their aspect of practicality. But before we get there, kindly remember, four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. That's a key factor to consider when you're choosing a vehicle to go off-road. One of the reasons why these two cars are loved in the Kenyan car market space is because of their ground clearance. Well, they have an almost more or less the same ground clearance. They sit on 17-inch wheels. Sometimes that can vary. Some of them will come with 16-inch, but the ground clearance is more or less the same. However, there is a key difference between these two cars. Remember, the XV is based on the Subaru Impreza. And what that gives to the XV as a disadvantage is that if you look at these two cars, the Escudo is taller compared to the XV. The XV has a lower roofline, but the Escudo has a higher roofline. And so if you look at it from afar, the Escudo has a more crossover packaging. What this does to their stance is that the taller roofline of the Escudo makes it look more like a compact crossover. In fact, not many people can tell the difference between an XV and a Subaru Impreza because they are more or less the same. This is basically a lifted Impreza, and there are people who value that crossover look. And if you value that, the stance of the Escudo will pull you towards it, unlike the XV, which looks more of a station wagon or a lifted hatchback. Now, the other thing that the taller roofline does is it means that the person sitting inside the Escudo will have a larger headroom compared to the passenger sitting in the Subaru XV. Interior is a key factor when you're choosing the car to go for because you need to feel comfortable. And there are a few things that will actually differentiate these two cars or set them apart, and they might just be the deal breaker. When it comes to the interior space, it's more or less the same, but the deal breaker might be if you buy a top trim of the Subaru XV, the 2.0 eyesight, is that the interior finish is better compared to what you have when it comes to the Escudo. In fact, the interior of the Escudo does feel a bit cheap compared to what you get on the XV, because with the XV you can get some fancy features such as orange stitching when it comes to leather interior, because these two cars, in fact, this Escudo has leather stroke Alcantara when it comes to the interior, but even with a cloth Subaru XV, you're going to have a more premium feel of that vehicle. When it comes to the safety aspect, the XV boasts of Subaru's eyesight, and eyesight is more advanced compared to the same lane departure technology that we have on the Escudo. In fact, when you look at eyesight and you look at what we have on the Escudo, I've had the privilege to drive both cars over long distances, and to be honest, the tech we have in the Escudo is child's play compared to eyesight. The other notable difference between the two is the handbrake. With the 2018 Escudo, you're still going to enjoy the old manual handbrake. Well, to the lovers of tech, the XV will be more appealing because it has an electronic handbrake. But if I was to be asked, my opinion, and not this is my personal opinion, I would prefer the manual handbrake over the electronic handbrake any day, anytime. The most important factor and the basis of the value for money segment is the pricing, because if you source these two cars from us for the year of manufacture 2018, these vehicles are going to set you back 2.65 million Kenya shillings. But I'm going to leave you with a question. Which one do you think is better compared to the two, and which one would you buy? I've been your host, Eric Ukabi, Eric with a CK, and remember, we offer services such as pre-purchase inspection, direct importation, local sourcing, and even consultation on matters cars. You can reach out to us via our social media platforms, AutoConnect Kenya on the WhatsApp channel, whose link is in the description. You can reach us out on Facebook and Instagram, AutoConnect Kenya Automotive Excellence, and you can also reach me at a personal level, Eric Ukabi, on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Threads as well. We value your feedback. Tell us, what do you think about this review in the comment section?